right, so we are moving on to elimination day 2. All right, so yesterday we wrote 6 steps on how to solve a system by elimination. So our first step was to look at both of our equations and find a term that was exactly the same, but one was positive and one was negative. So today we're going to look at examples. I'm just going to start with some examples. Sometimes I think it's the easiest to start that way. And so this time, let's start with the following. Let's start with 7x plus 2y equals 24, and 8x plus 2y equals 30. So I'm just gonna, give me a second, pull up my steps from yesterday. All right, so step 1, we said, look for a term that is exactly the same in both equations, but one's positive and one's negative. So we have a 7 and 8. Those are not the same. We have a 2y and we have a 2y, so that's good. Or 2y and 2y, so that's good. But the signs are the same. So if we were to add these together, we wouldn't have anything that cancels out. So if you go back to Monday's class, we actually talked about the pizza and the drinks. So we decided that we can add any two equations or we can subtract any two equations. So if these two have the exact same sign, you can't add them, you have to subtract. So let's go ahead and do that. So you put the line underneath. So now instead of adding, we're going to subtract. So what is 7x minus 8x? Well, that's just negative 1x. What's 2y minus 2y? That's just 0y. 24 minus 30 is negative 6. So then the rest of our steps from yesterday are exactly the same. So we solve for the variable. So we have negative 1x equals negative 6. We can divide both sides by a negative 1. And you get x equals 6. The next step was to substitute the 6 into either one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one you pick. You can do either of them and you'll get the same answer. I'm just going to pick the top one. So 7x plus 2y is 24. And then we also have x equals 6. So I'm just going to write that here. So we need to substitute. So we need to take this 6 and put it in for that x. When I do that, you get 7 times 6 plus 2y equals 24. The next step said solve for the variable. So 7 times 6 is 42 equals 2y, or equals plus 2y equals 24. I'm going to draw the line. We are going to subtract 42 from both sides. So we get, let's see, these two things cross out. You're left with 2y equals 24 minus 42 is negative 18. And then divide both sides by 2. And you get y equals negative 9. And then your last step was to write as a coordinate point. So our x value was 6 and our y value was negative 9. So the only difference between the problems today and the problems yesterday is that these two signs are the same, so you have to subtract. Okay, so we're going to do one more. Let's do 8x plus y equals negative 16. And, shoot. Let me rewrite that. Okay, we are going to do, what did I say? Oh, 8x plus y equals negative 16, and then negative 3x plus y equals negative 5. All right, so these two things are not even close to the same. These two are exactly the same, but they have the same sign. So when they have the same sign, you have to subtract. So I'm going to put a big minus sign out here. So you have 8x minus a negative 3x. Okay, that's kind of complicated. So I'm just going to write what we just said. So 8x minus a negative 3x. Well, minus a negative, it's kind of like in English. If you have a double negative, it becomes a positive. So 8x, this is going to end up being plus 3x. If you are not very good at negatives or subtracting, that's fine. Use a calculator. I'd much rather have you get the right answer than guess and get the wrong answer. So we have 8x plus 3x, so this is 11x. So y minus y, so that gives us 0y. Negative 16 minus a negative 5. Wow, that was a lot of negatives. I'm going to write that over here. So negative 16 minus a negative 5. So again, that's a double negative again. So if you have a double negative, it becomes a positive. So you have negative 16 plus 5, and that equals negative 11. And again, calculators, you can use your calculators. So step 2 was to solve. So we're going to have 11x equals negative 11. So divide both sides by 11. You get x equals negative 1. All right, next step, substitute. So we're going to take this and plug it in for one of these two. I'm going to use the top one. You can plug it into the bottom one if you would like. So 8x plus y equals negative 16. We also know that x equals negative 1. So I'm going to substitute. I'm going to take this negative 1 and put it in for that x. When I do that, I'm going to get 8 times negative 1 plus y equals negative 16. So I have negative 8 plus y equals negative 16. Draw your line. We're going to add 8 to both sides. So we have y equals negative 16 plus 8 is negative 8. And we need to write our answer as a coordinate pair. So our x is negative 1 and our y is negative 8.